The news broke earlier this afternoon that Ismael Salas will not be in the corner for Joe Joyce on Saturday night for his huge clash with Daniel Dubois live on BT Sport due to testing positive for COVID-19. Now, when the pandemic hit, they were actually working with each other in Las Vegas. So Joyce initially started his pro career with Salas after signing with the Haymaker team, and Salas was being hired by David Hay to train Willie Hutchinson, Joyce and himself. But since then, Salas has gone back to Vegas to work with his fighters, and Joyce has started working with different trainers like Abel Sanchez and Adam Booth, to name a few. Now, obviously this is not great news for Joyce's camp, but he does have a replacement, and I will touch on the Salas situation as we go through. But basically, Salas will not be in the corner on Saturday night. It will be a corner of Steve Broughton and Jimmy Tibbs. Now, Broughton is relatively unknown. He came up last year when Derek Chisora chose him to train him for the David Price fight. I actually remember Shane McGuigan being asked the question about him because they said you had him in your camp, and Shane didn't make the most complimentary remarks. It wasn't it was like almost astonishment that this guy is taking a corner. He said, I had him working for me and he was just a strength and conditioning guy. Now, I've done a little bit of research and looked at who Steve Broughton is. Now, as I say, Steve Broughton had Chisora for the David Price fight, but also I've gone and had a look at who he's worked with. He has worked with Salas before, as well as McGuigan and David Hay in camp, but he is essentially a track and field athlete. He's not, from what I've gathered, an amateur boxer or professional boxer. He's just essentially a personal trainer / strength and conditioning coach, as you'll see here. So he's basically been in the industry for 10 years and he's basically Poliquin trained. So he has a qualification with the late great strength and conditioning coach Charles Poliquin. But other than that, that is what he is. He's just a strength and conditioning coach. However, does that mean he can't corner on Saturday night? Well, we must remember that he has cornered Derek Chisora, and he has also cornered Joe Joyce back in the summer in his blowout against Wallish. So he has done it before, but not at this extent. This is a huge fight to be cornering. However, he has taken most of the camp. So in some ways, does it make that much difference? Now, with Jimmy Tibbs being there, I think that is the huge boost, is to have that experience of Jimmy Tibbs in the corner. Now, Salas, when he has worked in the UK, has normally used Jimmy as a seconds anyway. So I think Tibbs was always there. That was always going to be on the agenda. Now, as for Salas, for me with the Steve Broughton situation, it is what it is. Joe seems to listen to him, and if he's giving the right advice, no matter what, if it's good advice, it's good advice, and he can use it. Now, you've got to remember, Joe has operated at a high level as an amateur and as a pro, and literally has had numerous people in his corner and always performed well as a professional and amateur. So he's used to having different people. When you're an amateur, he would be training at Ellsfield, boxing under Sid Khan. When he represents Team GB, he'd be operating under different coaches. It wouldn't be Sid Khan in his corner. So ultimately, he is used to this scenario. But where does it leave Salas after all of this? Because there must be a sense of, I know I rate Ismael highly, but there must be a sense of confusement and annoyance at all of this, because ultimately this is a huge fight. He's gone back to America to then to corner a fight. I've been looking at his Instagram for quite some time, and I was stunned when I was seeing him in America, and I was thinking, is this some sort of ploy? What is going on here? Why is he in America when Joe's training down in Chessington and Surbiton at Stallard's gym and Peak Performance? I just didn't understand it. And to think that now he can't corner him, you've got to wonder where Sam Jones and Joe Joyce will go from here on in after the fight. Undoubtedly, Salas is one of the very best trainers in the world. I've got an immense amount of respect for him. When I watch and I analyse his training, I've taken training clips and training tips from him and put it into my own coaching. He's a magnificent trainer. But this doesn't sit right with me. Too often, and you only have to look at the resurgence of Jorge Linares' career to see the work he did and how good it was before he then left Linares to work, if I remember correctly, with David Haye full time, leaving Linares without him ahead of the Lomachenko fight. And I think Linares missed him massively. And look at the performance he put in that night against Lomachenko. How would he have fared if he had Salas in the corner? People often forget that. They always talk about Lomachenko's difficulties, but that is something which was overlooked, that Salas wasn't in the corner for Linares or in the training camp. But with Jimmy Tibbs being in the corner, my personal opinion, that is a huge boost. I think without Jimmy, if there was someone else in the corner that was less experienced and less of a quality trainer, I would be massively concerned. But I think with Jimmy being there, his words of wisdom, also the fact that they can still get contact from Salas, he can still contact on the phone during the fight and make certain recommendations. I'm sure that if they keep it clear and concise, I don't see much of a problem. You've got to remember that Joe Joyce, he knows these two men, Steve Broughton and Jimmy Tibbs. He's familiar with having them in his camp and his corner. But also, Team GB, they never work with the same trainers. So they'll train with a certain coach, but it doesn't mean that they're going to have them in their corner for that fight, or for that tournament. So for me, I think Joe will cope with this mentally. I think he's old enough. I think it would be a different matter if it was Dubois having this issue with Martin Bowers. I think this fight might not even need corner work. You don't know if it will go that long. But I think he's in capable hands. But we shall see on Saturday night. Let me know your thoughts below.